So number 17 already. Sjimi from France, I believe, right?
Yes,
In
correct.
the sunshine. Yeah, I'm in the boring office. I'll be in France next week. Obviously, you're there for work as well. Anything that you recently encountered that you would want to discuss?
Oof, there's a lot, obviously, but I think something that comes to mind now is a recent frustration. I think we're all experimenting a lot, or experimenting. I think it's not even an experiment anymore, like with skills, with managed agents. And I think what really bothers me with cloud design as well, what really bothers me a bit is that using cloud design and then having to hand it over to an agent to cloud code, you can see that there's friction there, right? You can try to give the URL, but that doesn't really work. And then you give it the full HTML, or then you have to even take screenshots. So I find that very frustrating. And then a second example of that is like, yeah, I'm doing a lot nowadays. I used to document a lot, right? Now what I do is I create managed agents to help build the documentation, ranging from, infrastructure to architecture, etc., just to make it live, which is, I think, really cool. And I think that's where we're going to move. But what I notice as well, if you want to collaborate on these kind of skills, manage agents, it's very hard to do so. Like, it's a frustrating thing where you share one version, but then the other person doesn't really see it when you share it. You don't see it in your customized section, and you have to share the link. So I'm really wondering how they do it at Claude, or at Tropic rather. Like, why is it not better yet?
I think it's very clear from how the applications use. I use the cloud desktop application. So there you have very clear distinction between all these things. And it's very clear for me that it's just isolated teams working on different things. I think, of course, in the end, the skill is the thing you share between services. A handoff is something else, but a skill is something you can share. But there as well, I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done to be able to have like a way to share skills properly, because I indeed also use a lot of managed agents. First of all, I wonder why you need a managed agent for what you try to do, because basically what it's probably you have a Terraform repo or something, and then when you make changes to that, it probably is a documentation. That's how it works.
Basically, we check actually directly into GCP, because I think not everything is terraformed yet. Obviously, ideally, everything is terraformed. And so you use Google Cloud CLI.
Okay.
And then why manage agent, just so that it can be updated on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
In an ideal
No,
world, it would be cool.
otherwise you could put it in your CI, and
True.
if it could be based on the Terraform. Anyway, but the problem is for me, and there you also see it like Anthropic, they have this cloud marketplace for cloud and cloud code, right? And you can create plugins there, and you can do that on an organization level as well. So you can push plugins to your team. You can even force enable them, which I think is nice. We have that for some stuff. But then if you have a managed agent, for example, I have a managed agent that's basically looking into our CRM system and trying to find records that are not fully complete yet. So I have documentation, or we could put documentation in our marketplace plugin on the sales plugin explaining what should be in there. And then you would assume that you can take that and feed it into the managed agent so that it has that context. And so I have the feeling that we're still in the very, very early days of all that kind of piping, scaffolding, all that stuff together. And it's a lot of isolated things. I was discussing with a couple of colleagues also in the past days. I mean, some people use Hermes, some people have Obsidian and a second brain thing running. And there is so much information spread across everywhere. And there is no solution yet to like, where do we put what? And especially the what is the skills. I guess Anthropic will have to come up with something, but there is no central place. I think as a company, it would make sense to have like one central place with all your skills, and then have some kind of permission system for people to be able to access the skills or whatsoever.
Yeah. So let's hope that somebody of Intrepid listens to us and they're working on that, right? I don't know what the chances, but
the other thing I was thinking is maybe you can make an MCP and expose the knowledge through that MCP. But then the problem is you need to have a skill explaining like what you can find in the MCP. So
yeah,
because I was trying to pipe in the plugin into the managed agent, and I deployed my managed agent with a pipeline, so I could clone the repo into the source that I'm pushing to the managed agent. But then even you need to start moving files around because they expect a certain structure. In an ideal world, it would be just about hooking up a repo to your managed agent. That's not how it works. And so I think there is lots of work to be done there. It's pretty crazy. And I see everyone struggling with it. I talk with many people about it, and we need to come up with a solution at one point. And I have the feeling it's a bit like in the early days of the internet. Like a couple of years ago, I was always saying like people that are doing data science, they're still doing stuff like we were doing them 10 years ago, like manually and stuff like that. They don't have deploy scripts, they don't have proper tests, and they go with FTP on the server. I have the feeling with AI that we're at the same stage now, where basically it's like filed and so many different versions of files and final, and then they're
Exactly.
verging, and it's crazy.
We're figuring it out as we go, but I just can't believe that it will take long for Anthropic and the others to come up with a better system for all of this. Because if I work
Yeah,
on a
the
skill,
only
you
thing
should
I
be able
hope
to
is
work on it as well.
that it's not going to be closed source and it's going to be a
Yeah.
standard. I think that's important. Of course, with MCP, we have that with skills. I'm not sure it's in a standard yet, but there we have it. But yeah, I really hope that we make something that is across platform, because otherwise, you get so much vendor locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
which
that
is
should
already
be
the case, for
fine.
example, with the managed agent stuff. Yeah. Actually, I tried porting some of our managed agents to Notion agents, and there I really noticed that Notion is still light years away from what Anthropic is doing. Very stupid example is every MCP you want to connect an agent, you have to reconnect it for every agent you create. So there is no
Yeah.
central place where all your MCPs are connected. Anyway, maybe something totally different. I went to, where did I go? Finland, right? Last week. And it's, of course, on topic. I went to audit basically a hosting company providing GPU capacity. And I want to come back to what we discussed, I think, last episode, where we said, it might make sense to host basically some inference in our office. Now that I've seen the actual investment it required, because that's what I went to do. I went to audit like a financial decision. The investment that it requires to get something like that up and running is crazy. Like just one server with what is it, 8 GPUs is like 550,000 euros for the latest version, which is insane, obviously. And if you look at it from the credits that you pay on the API when you rent it out, it looks pretty cheap. But then if you look into the actual number, and still it's very lucrative.
Yeah, and it would be a good way to create some capex, right? Capex expenses.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
the maybe question there, then do you think that obviously there is probably going to be more players than the one you went to? Is that then more a viable solution where we rent out a slot in these kind of
Yeah,
data centers and like here's
that's
our
what their
internal thing?
customers are doing.
Yeah.
But the problem is that they are always fully booked because they have customers basically renting out the whole thing. Because they buy like this NVIDIA, what is it, B300 machines, it's like the latest generation. The availability of the machines is the hard part. So finding them and then managing to buy them in capacity. And then the second thing that very few people realize is that traditional data center, you have like cabinets where the racks or the servers are in, and there's a power feed for a rack, and it's typically like 10 kVA or in a normal one. But with AI, it consumes so much power that you can in one rack just put like one server, because the racks are not calculated for that. So, I mean, if you would want to have something like that in the office, you could do it, but there is so much logistic that comes to it.
So it's not about the space
It's
anymore.
crazy.
It's about the electricity and the.
So we were
Nice.
discussing like data center capacity. In the past, you would discuss how many racks there are available. No,
Yeah.
it was about megawatts, gigawatts available.
It's great.
It's great. Yeah. So basically, putting it in the office, I really hope that one day we can run them on our computers. But for the real work, it's still very clear to me that there's actually one vendor only, which is NVIDIA, and it's a huge investment to get something.
It's also like for what we would use it as a company is completely different probably than the buyers of that kind of capacity, right? They're training, running their complete
if you want to run
LLMs
if you want to run a Kini 3 or what is it today, you need a machine like that to load it.
Okay.
So no, of course, if we buy like token capacity, that's something different. But if you want to buy the real GPU capacity, that's the kind of infrastructure you need, which is insane. Anyway, cool.
Cool audit.
Yeah, it was interesting. I learned a lot while doing that. So we see each other in 2 weeks. Have a good time still in France.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Bye bye.